Good morning, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. I hope now Tahir Malik Saab has joined us and he can hear me clearly. Tahir Saab, can you hear me? You are mute. You are mute. So kindly unmute yourself. Yes, now.
Hello.
Yes. Now we can hear you. So today we are going to discuss about Pakistan-Middle East relations, and we are joined here with Professor Tahir Malik Saab. He is a political analyst and lecturer at the Department of International Relations at National University of Modern Languages. He is a columnist as well, and he is interested in global politics, diplomacy, international law, and he is expert in Middle Eastern affairs. So over to you, Tahir Saab.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to speak on your forum. And as the topic, I teach international politics of Middle East to the students of IR. And let me introduce this topic that Pakistan is considered as part of Middle East in many maps of the Middle East. If you look at the geostrategic location of Pakistan, it lies right at the corridors of Middle East. When I say the corridors of Middle East, it means it neighbors Iran, and in some areas of Balochistan, it is quite close to Muscat, Amman. And as you all know that Gwadar is a place which was reclaimed, Pakistan reclaimed this land from Gwadar. And it is through oceans and sea, it is also closely, it lies on Arabian seas, and it is closely associated with UAE, United Arab Emirates. It is close to Saudi Arabia. So I think Pakistan, as it has close proximity with Middle Eastern state. It is part of Middle East. On the other hand, it is part of South Asia, but it is part of Middle East. So since its inception, since Pakistan and Israel, these two states are referred as ideological states, that they were created on the basis of ideology. The basis of Pakistan's ideology was two-nation theory and religion-based nationalism, that Muslims have separate nationalism. The birth of Muslim nationalism in India led to creation of Pakistan. So Pakistan's population, predominantly Muslim, they have close affinity, cultural, historical, religious ties with Middle East. So they have always looked towards Middle East, and in the mindset of average Pakistani, these concepts related to Muslim Ummah, the fraternity between Muslims, have been espoused by writers in literature, in media. They have always that Pakistan is part of Muslim Ummah and it is an important state. So having said that, when we see the breakup of Ottoman Empire and the emergence of modern state system in Middle East led to the emergence of modern state system in Middle East. And there was polarization, Sykes-Picot agreement, the colonial powers, the French, the British, the Italians, they divided among themselves the Middle East. And in division, the role of foreign powers in Middle East, extraterritorial powers, European powers, global powers, seems like it's a permanent feature of Middle Eastern politics. So times have changed, but the politics of Middle East, the patterns of politics of Middle East remained unchanged. There has always been a foreign presence in Middle East. The quest to dominate Middle East, create is Can you excuse me for a while?
Yes, sir, sure.
So this quest to create a position of influence and power in Middle East. The first dimension was geographical. The second dimension was resource rich, especially after the discovery of oil. So there was rivalry among global powers. There was rivalry competition we have seen to dominate this. And since the creation of Pakistan, even before the creation of Pakistan, the founding fathers of Pakistan, Allama Iqbal and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, they supported the Palestinian cause. And they wrote letters, they raised these issues with the British authorities. At that time, India was a British colony. So the first movement in Muslim movement in Indian subcontinent was Khilafat movement. It was in support of Turkey. The second movement that was in support of Palestinian cause. And we have seen resolutions of Muslim League. It is a political party which has founded Pakistan. The resolutions, more than one resolution in support of Palestinian, and the Jinnah and its leadership took a clear stand and declared Israel as an illegitimate state which have occupied Arab lands. And the Grand Mufti of Palestine, Jinnah supported his cause for Palestinian cause. So once Pakistan came into being, the foreign policy of Pakistan, one of the cornerstone of foreign policy of Pakistan, was to have maintained and promote friendly relations with the whole Muslim world, with the Middle Eastern countries. And the second aspect of Pakistan's foreign policy is that it will never participate or become party in a conflict between two Muslim states. So we have seen consistency in that phase during Iran-Iraq war. Pakistan, there was a growing pressure from US camp. Pakistan was part of US camp to support Iraq against Iran. But Pakistan resisted then. In fact, General Zia at that time tried to negotiate Iran-Iraq. Similarly, recent Saudi Arabia-Yemen crisis. Saudi Arabia is a close Muslim-friendly country, brotherly state with Pakistan. It has helped Pakistan in a number of ways, economically, financially, human resources over there, diplomatically. It's a sacred state and place. Muslims have a lot of affiliations, but Pakistan took clear stand. It took this issue. Saudi Arabia wanted that Pakistan should join, send its forces in Saudi Arabia, station its forces in Saudi Arabia. But Pakistan referred this issue to the parliament, which decided again on the principle of Pakistan's foreign policy that Pakistan's effort is to resolve this conflict, not to become a party in this conflict. So these are the two cornerstones of Pakistan's foreign policy. It has actively participated in Islamic Summit organizations in 1974, in OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries. It has tried to support Muslim cause, whether in Bosnia, in Chechnya, or in Palestine. Despite the fact that Pakistan was part of US alliance, even in US invasion of Iraq, it was one of the demands of USA to send its forces in occupied Iraq. At that time, General Musharraf and Pakistan were allies of United States, but Pakistan refused to send its troops in occupied Iraq. So the ties with Middle East, they have, you can say that it have historical ties, and Pakistan foreign policy is very well articulated towards relations with Middle Eastern states. So just give me 1 minute. There is something urgent which I have to look towards.
Okay, sir.
So this is the cornerstone of Pakistan's foreign policy. And as far as Middle Eastern relations is concerned, one of the failures of Pakistan foreign policy is not to engage Middle Eastern states, Gulf countries and others in economically, culturally, peoples to people level conflict terms. These are the areas where, or cultural diplomacy, where Pakistan should have taken a proactive role. So, and this is one of the reasons. So this was the area we can see that. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You are audible.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Sorry, there was an urgent call for me. And I want to say that in comparison with India, India has more cultural trade and you can say people to people level contacts with Middle Eastern state than Pakistan. This is a failure of Pakistan's foreign policy. We don't have any film, we don't have entertainment. This is one of the drawbacks in that. And the second aspect is that Pakistan, India cleverly, for example, Nehru, he maintained ties with Arab socialist political parties, for example, Baas Party. This is was a time when there were Muslim Brotherhood and Baas Party. So Pakistan should have maintained ties, not only government, but its political parties, its foreign office, its intellectuals, its medias with Middle Eastern political parties in Egypt, in Syria, in Palestine. We have seen such effort during Bhutto's time. He has maintained close ties with Arab socialist leader, with Yasser Arafat, with Colonel Gaddafi, with Saddam Hussein, with Hafiz Assad of Syria. So there is no, you can say, terms or engagement with Arab political parties. Still now, as I deliver this lecture, we don't have any cultural diplomacy with the Middle Eastern state. We don't have any warm ties with Arab political parties. We don't have interaction with Arab media. We don't have any connection with Middle Eastern universities. There should have been Pakistan chairs. There should have been research and engagements with Pakistan. There should be have more, you can say, proactive diplomacy with Middle Eastern state. This is one of the all the contacts are human to human level. And the role of foreign office, we have sizable community in Middle East. There are from laborer to top scientists, doctors, engineers, professors. But we have failed to create a Pakistan lobby in Middle East. This is one of the drawbacks, I can say, or the failures of Pakistan's engagement with the Middle East. All of these terms are security related, are government to government. There is no cultural or human engagement with Middle Eastern states. So this was my lecture, and there is more a need to engage with them at this level. So I would invite questions for this brief talk. I would like to invite questions for this brief talk.
Thank you very much, sir, for your lecture. You discussed in a very detail about Pakistan's stance in Iran-Iraq war, Yemen war, and historical ties with Middle Eastern countries, but we are lacking somehow people-to-people contact and cultural diplomacy. So I would like to add here one point as well, that our relations with Saudi Arabia, we are having very strong relations because of, we share the same religion. So I mean, Pakistan relations with its long-standing ally in the Middle East, like Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we have been neutral, in the Yemen war. So we were not part of that. So that is why we, feel a lot of pressure as well from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia. And same is the case with Iran as well. I mean, in between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and Yemen and Saudi Arabia. So it is difficult for us to be an ally of any of our Muslim brothers. So, I mean, how do you see, like, new government, and what will be the future of? Yes.
Growing challenge that the Middle East is divided in two camps. You see the quest for regional camp domination, three camps. Turkey on the one side, it wants to assume the role of regional leadership. Saudi Arabia and its allies want Saudi Arabia to be a regional leader. Iran also wants to dominate the politics of Middle East. How to maintain balance in this situation? The best example is Turkey. The success of Turkey is that it is engaged in trade with Iran, with Saudi Arabia, and even when I want to remind you that when economic blockade was imposed on Qatar, Turkey was the first country to violate this economic blockade and start immediately trade with Qatar. So trade, investment, cultural diplomacy, these are the three major areas in which the focus of Turkish foreign policy is. Our focus should also be there. Why the Arab countries are shifting towards India? It is the size of Indian economy. And like we approach our states of Gulf countries for borrowed oil, and India lures them for investment. Even there is a sizable Indian investment in Gulf countries. Their companies are doing business worth millions and billions in Middle East. Recently, you have read this story. You must have read this story in UAE that there are new laws of citizenship laws in UAE, and the first citizenship awarded of UAE is to Indian businessman citizens. So if Pakistan economy is in poor shape, it's a major drawback of its relations, foreign relations. The role of market, the strength of your economy determines your foreign policy reach with different regions. Pakistan is fast to its, whether it is China, whether it is Saudi Arabia, whether it is America, Pakistan has approached them to help them to take out of this crisis. So it is about time that the decision makers in Pakistan should realize that Pakistan needs a viable economy even for its foreign relations. For this, Pakistan needs to engage in trade with Iran, Saudi Arabia, even India, Afghanistan. How can a country is viable economic country which lacks trade at the regional level? We are not doing substantial trade with Middle Eastern states. The only trade we have is the expatriates, Pakistanis, who consume Pakistani things. Otherwise, in most of the stores, shopping malls of Middle East, there are very few things which are Pakistani, and there are a lot of other things which are Indian. So Indian business is growing in Middle East. It should be a threat to Pakistan. Ji.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a question from Azad Ahmed, and he would like to ask that what is the future of Pakistan-Middle East relations, especially the recent developments of Saudi Arabia and Iran relations?
Saudi Arabia and Iran relationship?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think Pakistan has tried to mediate between Saudi Arabia and Iran, but Pakistan's interests are more with Saudi Arabia. So there is a prospect of that Iran-US nuclear deal was signed by Democrats and it was reversed by Republicans. So again, we have seen that there is a Democrats party president in USA. So all of these things depend upon Iran-US nuclear deal. If it revives and it is successful, it will have a positive impact or spillover impact on the politics of Middle East. I think Pakistan should try more through track to diplomacy, through unofficial means to mediate or normalize relations between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And it is in the larger interest of whole Middle East. This is one aspect. If relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, there is a normalization, it will be the prospects of peace, prosperity, and human development in Middle East. There will be a boost. So Pakistan, through unofficial means, should try. And recently, our Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto, he visited Iran, and there should be more progress on these areas.
Yes, Ishan, you can ask your question.
Thank you so much, Musawar, and thank you so much, Professor Saab, for giving us this insightful lecture on Middle East politics and current affairs. I have a question that when Pakistan came into being in 1947, the founding father of All India Muslim League, Sir Aga Khan, gave a very unique suggestion that Pakistan should adopt Arabic language as its national language. And by doing that, within 20 to 25 years, Pakistan would culturally and politically emerge in the Gulf region or with the Arab nations. So why you think, what could be the possible reasons we never adopted that thing? That's why, do you think that was the main reason we could not be able to gel in with Arab nations till date?
I think that is not the reason. If you look at the Indians, they speak Hindi language. China has major engagement, diplomatic, trade, economic engagement with the rest of the world. So Chinese did not learn even English. And so there are other factors, and Middle East is whole region, their language, their native language is Arabic, which is a holy language for Muslims. So there is no harm in people of Pakistan learn Arabic as they learn to read and speak the holy verses from Holy Quran. For an average Pakistani, it is very easier to learn Arabic. But we have our own language. We have regional languages. We have national language Urdu. So we are a separate nation. We are Muslim, but we are a separate nation. We are not Arab. We are not Persian. So we are not Central Asians. So keep this in mind that we are not Arabs and we are not Central Asian. We have our own nationalism. Yet we can mention, for example, Turkey, for example, when Ataturk came to power, he changed the transcript or alphabetical order of Turkish language to Roman alphabets. And he promoted Turkish language. Today, Turkey has successful foreign policy. So language is no barrier. If you are conducting relations with other states, language is no barrier.
Thank you very much, sir. We have a few other questions as well in the chat box. So if you would like to answer any of the questions, there are two questions like what will be the impact of US-Iran nuclear deal on Pakistan-Middle East relations? What will be the impact
on Pakistan?
Yes, sir.
I think the economic challenges of Pakistan, if sanctions are lifted on Pakistan. Recently, a friend of mine is sent a picture, which I will share with you, that the smuggled Pakistani mangoes are being sold in Tehran. The volume of trade, Pakistan can easily enhance the volume of trade between Iran and Pakistan by 20 to 30%. And it will have a significant impact on both economies, on Iran and Pakistan. For example, what is the reason behind our present economic problem is the soaring oil prices. Petroleum prices have increased multiply. And it is the price hike and inflation is due to the rising fuel prices. We can buy in Pakistan, we can see that the media also fails to tell this. The most cheapest oil which Pakistan can get from the whole world is through Iran. The transportation cost to ship Russian oil in Pakistan is heavy. And so through Pakistan-Iran border, the shipment of oil through road or rail network, or even through coastal Bandar Abbas port to Gwadar and Karachi is very cheaper. So the present impact, and I would advise, even if there are sanctions, India is engaged in trade with Iran, with Russia. Pakistan should have more trade with Iran and even with India and Afghanistan.
Thank you very much, sir. We have our last question that Pakistan from Quratul Ain Halim. She wanted to ask that Pakistan is failed to engage with Middle Eastern countries. and now a gap is created between Pakistan and Middle Eastern region. So what is the reason behind it, and how, I mean, this is the main question, that how Pakistan can fix this problem?
It can fix it through proactive diplomacy. You see our foreign office in India in 1950s and 60s. The ambassadors to Middle Eastern states were Arabic philosophy and literature professors. For example, in Syria, Dr. Khalik Ahmad Nizami, who was Vice Chancellor of Aligarh University, was sent as ambassador. So we need a more proactive diplomacy engagement. We should make documentaries in Arabic language. We should have more presence in Arab media, and we should have more, the revival of Pakistani film industry will create impact. Now you see Amazon and Netflix, we have, in comparison to India, we have very minimum level of presence. And if you look at the data, that most of the viewers in Middle East, they also watch documentaries, films on Netflix and Amazon, and we don't have significant number of presence there. So diplomacy or foreign policy is not traditional. We need to explore more non-traditional sources.
Thank you very much, sir. You rightly pointed out that how we can fix these issues. So I just would like to add a few points here, that like Youth Diplomacy Forum is working to strengthen global youth cooperation. And we are collaborating with different organizations, like we are here collaborating with ORSAM, Center for Middle Eastern Studies. So it's a Turkish think tank, Turkish non-profit organization. And we are collaborating with them in this joint program to further strengthen our collaboration. So I think we need to move towards Middle East as well. We have to follow up or connect with the Middle Eastern organizations, Middle Eastern youth platforms to further strengthen collaboration. Maybe this can, this will help us normalize little bit. It will develop a kind of people-to-people contact at some level. So I think if the organizations of Middle Eastern countries and organizations from Pakistan can collaborate, if there will be a media collaboration between PTV or maybe any other, channel with Al Jazeera, or if there is any collaboration, exchange of artists, or maybe student exchange, culture exchange, food exhibition. So I think this can help develop, more friendly and more cooperative, I would say, relations. Then, as you told us that India is having very strong relations than us. India is having very strong relations with Gulf countries, with UAE, with Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain. So we are not having that kind of relation. So Indian diaspora is also there. So thank you very much, sir, for your precious time, and thank you very much for joining us. So we are ending up our session here. I would like to thank all the participants, our speaker, and ORSAM. Thank you very much.